Three people with three very different interests make up this episode of Heartland Highways.
First, Bruce Hannon has a craft that not many people can do. He repairs and restores clocks.
Next, the Ballards collect soda memorabilia. They're not brand specific, so they have all kinds, including Whistle, Clio, and Green River, just to name a few. Finally, Sid Justice works on gunstocks in the basement workshop of his home. He'll share his craft with us. That's coming up next on Heartland Highway, so don't go away.
Hello again and welcome back to Heartland Highways.
We're here on the campus of Eastern Illinois University in Stevenson Hall to bring you this episode of the show. This week we've got two interesting occupations and a husband and wife soda collector team to cover, so let's jump right in.
Our first story came to us from a viewer named Barbara. Barbara wrote us and said, "We have to look into a man in the Champaign-Urbana area that restores and fixes clocks, as well as hosting a clock tour on the campus of the University of Illinois. Once I got a hold of Bruce Hannon, it didn't take much time before I became very intrigued with what he does." Bruce is like many people we talk to on the show. He started small, fixing a few things here and there, but it didn't take long before he became known as the clock guy. Here's his story.
1971, northern Minnesota, our whole family on vacation. We rented this cabin from an old German man who had moved there when he was young. And as a hobby, he imported German clocks and fixed them. And so I bought this really elaborate one from him for my wife, for the family here. We got it home, hung it up, and it didn't work. I took the works out, took it to the local jewelry store, and they said, "What's that?" And so I figured I was in for it. And I kept fiddling with it and fiddling with it. And finally, I'd get one thing fixed, and that wouldn't be right quite. It'd do better, but not enough. And that whole affair, until I finally got it completely restored, was habituating. Addiction set in. And so that was it. Then I started buying clocks just to feed the addiction and selling them because I didn't have the room for them. So I'm not a collector, I'm a fixer. And gradually though, enough people, so that's like 40-something years ago, gradually enough people found out that I did this, and there are not many people who do. And I got better and better at it as time went by. So I'm sort of the clock guy in town now.
Bruce Hannon is also somewhat of a self-taught clock guy too, as his background is actually in engineering. And sometimes learning on your own time teaches you valuable lessons up front.
The main thing to do with a clock, is if anybody's ever done it would recognize right away, is how to get it apart without killing yourself when the spring unloads. Right? And throws gears all over the place. That's the main thing to learn at the very beginning. Well, it struck me there must be a way to do that. And so what you do is wind these springs up and then put a clamp around them. And then let them unwind against the clamp. And then they're locked. They have no more release power. And then you can take the clock apart.
Bruce has done close to 5,000 or 6,000 clock repairs over the last 40 years, which isn't too bad for someone who just does it as a hobby.
I like to set things into motion again. The idea of restoring the past in some dynamic sense, that's really satisfying. And the idea that here in town, and this community in general, there are a whole bunch of things operating thanks to me, without anybody doing anything to them except winding them up once a week. And they are of service. People use them and tell time for them and so on. And if they don't work, then I get a call.
Bruce has done extensive clock repairs and restorations throughout the Champaign-Urbana area, and even hosts a clock tour on the University of Illinois campus. But one job in particular really stands out for him.
We saw this morning the clock tower in Urbana. That is a huge clock, tower clock. We repaired it and got it running after many years of just sitting there back in 1975, 76 for the bicentennial of the country. That we put the bell back up on top of the tower in that four-legged stand that is up there now. But it was plug ugly. It was just terrible looking because we'd lost 45 feet of the tower. During that time of repair back in the mid-70s, I saw a picture of the tower the way it had looked originally. And I said, this is really fantastic. What we've lost here is something terrific. And I'd go to every county board chairman after that for the next 20, 30, 25 years and say, hey, you know, we should do this. The county should do this. They should restore this. Until the year 2000, several people came on the board, particularly Steve Beckett, who was a prominent lawyer here in town, and he said, we've got to restore that. I showed him the picture, and we got to restore that. We got to do that. He was in charge of facilities for the county, and we did. But it took us from 2000 to 2010 to do it. We had to raise all the money for it and restore the clock at the same time. So we did that. And it's a big mechanism, a complicated mechanism, and I had a machinist, and together we built all the new pieces that we needed and got it running, and there it runs today. We saw it today. The big flywheel on the back keeps it from going too far.
Bruce says the hardest part of clock repair is knowing the complicated history of the mechanisms over time. But sometimes, with great difficulty, comes great reward.
Let's say 100 years ago, people would specialize in certain kinds of American clocks or grandfather clocks, or so they just specialized. They didn't have to face fixing everything, and that's what I've got. It's just this enormous problem. Once in a while, one comes along with a really good history. And if you've ever heard of Gregor Mendel, the botanist who was really the first to lay down the laws of genetics, then you'd realize that since the university has his clock, the one he had in his room in the Abbey in Switzerland, or in Czechoslovakia, that I managed to repair that thing and get it going.
The most common repair that Bruce makes is to axles in clocks that wear over time. As time has progressed, clocks and watches have gotten smaller and their parts move faster, causing those parts to wear out more often.
So you have to take the clock apart, bore out that hole to a larger circle, put in a sleeve, or bushing it's called. That's just right for that axle. Polish that axle to where it's like a mirror, put it back together.
And since there are about 50,000 mechanical clocks in the area Bruce lives in, it's unlikely that he'll run out of repairs to do. And for a guy whose great-grandchildren call him Clock, that seems to be okay with him.
In this next story, we introduce you to Jan and Dan Ballard. Now, when we meet collectors for the show, generally it's the husband or the wife's collection. But for the Ballards, they've both avidly collected soda pop memorabilia for several years now. What makes their collection unique is they don't limit themselves to one brand. They like them all. They invited us over to their home to take a look and to share some of their funny stories from collecting over the years.
As far as our collecting, what's been good for us, we're both interested in it. We might be interested in different things, but I would give in to her buying something. I may not want it, but I would buy it because she wanted it.
That mutual love for collecting and that all-important find has filled up the basement of Jan and Dan Ballard's home with collectible soda pop memorabilia. While many collectors focus on just one brand, such as Coke or Pepsi, the Ballards are interested in all brands. Some you may or may never have heard of. While this may appear to be a lifelong collection, it actually started back in the 1980s, after the Ballards were unfortunately robbed of their coin collection.
And they pretty well wiped me out. I think I've got one Typeplex set left of different coins, but other than that, and then I got into the soda stuff when my daughter bought me a little soda truck. That started it off.
When we first started, if it was red and white, we bought it. We didn't care whether it was Coca-Cola or not. And we were running around with some friends that collected Pepsi-Cola, and we would buy the Coca-Cola stuff and they would buy the Pepsi stuff. Then they got to thinking, well, we kind of like some of this Coke stuff, and we felt the same way about Pepsi. But we particularly like anything that's got a character on it.
One brand with a character was Clio Cola, which created a bit of controversy in its day.
Their bottle graphics on the ACL bottles and the paper labels, it showed the lady's belly button, and they thought that was a little bit too much back then. So they did change some of the graphics. It's just something unique, something that attracted my attention, and like I said, it's just and because it was different than Coca-Cola and Pepsi.
Long before eBay and the internet, the Ballards scoured flea markets looking for pieces to add to their collection. Once they'd find one piece from a particular brand, they were on the hunt for more.
In the middle of all these Coca-Cola trays was this Dr. Pepper one right in the center, and it just caught my eye. Well, we bought that, and so then we had to start buying things to go with it, and that's what starts everything.
Some items bring back childhood memories, like Green River soda.
Well, I first remember it at the newsstand in Effingham when I was in junior high and high school. And when I'd get tired of a cola, and of course they had the little 5-cent Bell glasses, and this particular newsstand, she had a little syrup dispenser, Green River one, and I would order a Green River. It's got kind of a lemon lime taste to it, and it was just something different.
A big but small part of Jan and Dan's collection are salt and pepper shakers and miniature 6-packs.
The miniatures I fell in love with, I guess, because they don't take up so much room. And the smaller it was, it seemed like the better I liked it.
Which is why one of Jan's favorite pieces is this Salesman Sampler Cooler.
Someone came in with it to sell, and I thought they had bought it. And at the time, he wasn't at the booth, and he had the money. We forget to give each other the change once in a while. And this person told me that no, he hadn't purchased it. He brought it in to buy. I'm trying to get a hold of him. It's before cell phones. And let him know that this is for sale and I want it. And there's this girl who made a habit of just standing at the door waiting on people to come in so she could buy stuff. And she was after him. And I thought, oh, if I don't get the money for this, I'm going to just die. Well, he managed to show up in time, and we bought it.
While looking around at the collection, it may seem like the Ballards have a lot, but this is actually a downsized collection.
Since we have moved here to town in the last 6 years, I don't know how much stuff we have sold, a ton of stuff. I mean, well, I've even got a little storage container, a 10 by 20 footer that was full when we come to town. And then when we lived in the country, I had 2 40 footers that were full, plus our basement was full of stuff to sell. But anyway, as far as the big items, what you see on the walls now is pretty much it.
And while the collection is smaller than it used to be, Jan and Dan have a wide range of items. Everything from signs, trays, bottles, patches, and promotional items. One of their favorites is this Coca-Cola pretzel dish.
Well, we had been to a mall in Lebanon, Tennessee, and there was one there, and we tried to buy it. Well, the lady who was running the shop says, no, we can't sell that. That's Grandpa's ashtray. And it was just beaten to pieces where he had banged his pipe into it. Well, we went to Nashville, Tennessee, to the big flea market, and we were with some friends, and we sort of got separated a little bit, and Dan was a few booths ahead of me and our friends, and he found the pretzel dish. He wanted to get it bought before I got there and found out about it. He managed to do it. He rushed through that, and then we went to sit down and have a refreshment of some kind, a drink or something, and I'm talking, which I'm very good at doing, and I'm talking to our friends, and I turned around and looked, and the bag opened, and I saw the pretzel dish in there. My heart just stopped, and so did my sentence. I mean, when you're really, really looking for something and you find it, it is a thrill.
When it comes to parting with items, there's just one thing Dan says he can never get rid of.
Her.
But now, is there anything in particular that you wouldn't want to get rid of?
I can't think. I guess I'm, if the price is right, I probably it just depends, because I've had some people here, and I've priced stuff, I mean, I know was ridiculous high. If they'd have said, yep, I'd let them haul it off, but I said, I don't have duplicates. We're used to, I might have one extra one to fall back on, but no more, so I can't think of anything.
When you say, are you going to sell this? We decide, we think, now what do we want to get rid of? There's just nothing that we can say, this is it. We both like it, and that's the trouble. And we see it as beauty, like some people see Picasso as beauty.
Now you can watch Heartland Highways online anytime. Check us out on youtube.com/WEIUTV. Once you're there, just look for the Heartland Highways playlist, which will take you to a list of full episodes from season 7 through 11. And if you subscribe to our channel, you'll automatically be notified of when new programs are available to view, so sign up today.
Our last story in this episode also came from a viewer call, and it took us to Kansas, Illinois, where we met Sid Justice. Sid, just like Bruce, started small with repairing and restoring a few gun stocks here and there. But before long, his hobby took off and became a full-fledged, full-time business. Now gun collectors and enthusiasts the United States and world over are coming to Sid to make what's old new again.
Well, I like to shoot muzzleloaders. And back when I started shooting those, you couldn't just go buy one. You had to, well, a farm sale, you sometimes could find an old one. And most of the time, the stocks weren't any good, so you had to repair them if you wanted to shoot them. And that's how I got started. A neighbor came over, and he was sitting there in the garage. Then I lived in town. And when I got one finished, well, he said, hey, I brought a stock back from Germany with me. Would you repair it for me, or maybe we'll make a new one, it's in bad shape. So I did, and he told some people, and word got out, and the next, you know, it just, here's another stock, and here's another one, and a gun shop heard about me, and they started sending stuff my way. So I made my first carving machine in the late 70s. And that worked, but it was pretty slow. And as business picked up, I just kept buying better machines until I've got this one that suits my needs. So.
And now, Sid Justice from rural Kansas, Illinois enjoys a backlog of gun stock repairs and creation orders. Word of mouth spread so quickly when he got started that Sid was eventually able to make it a full-time job. His processes have also evolved from hand rasping and carving to machine-cut stocks mostly made from patterns.
Well, we start with a blank of wood and bandsaw it out, rough shape it to the desired shape that we need. And then I put the mounts on it that holds it on the machine, take it over and rough draft it, get some of the inlet work done, and take it out of the machine, bring it over to the bench, and final fit it to the gun.
And in case you're like me and you're not familiar with guns and gun stocks, I asked Sid to explain their purpose.
Well, there's a fore-end and a buttstock on most of them, unless it's a rifle. And it holds the metal. It gives you an anchor point to shoot from, and it fits the gun to your shoulder. The fore-end is to hold on to. The barrel gets hot sometimes, and it's to insulate and to look pretty.
Sid makes stocks for a variety of guns using either a hand-drawn design or a purchased pattern. He says one type of gun has been coming up a lot lately, though.
It has actually turned into mostly Winchesters. Since Winchester went out of business, there's a big push to restore the old ones, update the old ones, and that's most of my business is people in Indiana, well, all over. I've shipped all over the world, but they're restoring mostly Winchesters. I do shotguns that somebody buys a favorite trap gun and they like it real well and they want to upgrade the wood, make it a little prettier than what it is. Why, they buy a better piece of wood and I cut it out and put it on. Or maybe they want to change on it too, you know, a little bit higher, or more drop, something that nature.
Many of the gun stocks Sid works on are for or from antique guns, so precision is important.
Somebody spends a lot of money on a gun, they want the wood to fit perfect to the gun, and they just take Winchester for example. When a gun leaves the factory or left the factory in Winchester, they logged in what it had on it, the type of wood, whether it was a 2X fancy, they graded it by X's, and so they want to keep the gun original. Maybe somebody down through history has changed it, broke it, so they send to Winchester or Cody Museum in Wyoming and find out how it left the factory, and then they want that kind of wood put on, and they want a factory quality piece. They want to say, this is my collector Winchester, and look at the fit. They don't want to see gaps.
Sid averages about 15 stocks a week at about 2 hours or so per stock in the basement workshop of his home. Over his decades of this work, he's had the privilege of seeing many different kinds of guns, even some that are very rare.
I did a stock set for a Sharps shotgun, which was one of 100. A lot of custom guns, old custom guns. Some of the Winchesters are very rare, special order guns, and high dollar value, but like I said, I don't keep them here.
Sid's work has gained a reputation over the years too, and was even featured in magazines.
There is a club based in Texas, and it's a Winchester Arms Collectors Association, and they put out a quarterly magazine. They are exclusive, of course, Winchester, and for their annual meetings they restock, redo guns and sell them at auction. That's their, well, I guess I said annual meeting, but I've done 3 of their guns, and 2 of them they featured in their magazine. And I did this shotgun, Model 12 shotgun, and this 1890 Model 90 rifle gallery gun.
Sid says the best part of the job is more than just the guns and gun stocks. It's the people he meets along the way.
Well, I like meeting the different people, and you see very rare guns sometimes. I don't keep them here. I don't like to be responsible for a high dollar gun, but they bring it to me and we look it over and discuss their needs. Sometimes I take pictures of them, and I guess that's it. You meet a lot of interesting people, and I like that.
The day we taped at Sid's, we were also being taped by a crew from Eastern Illinois University to be featured on their web series EIU 360.
So thanks to Dustin and Michael for coming along. We had a really good time at Sid's, and you know, as we were filming, we even saw a deer out in his yard.
Never a dull moment here at Heartland Highways.
But we're out of time for this week, so don't forget you can always go to our website for more information.
We'll see you soon.
Also, blah blah. Three.
It's really, really neat. It's never a dull moment here at Heartland Highways.
But
hello and welcome.
go.
Hello!
Hello.
Hello!
Hello.
Hello!
Hello.
Hello.
Pretty lady!
Oh, no, that was good. That was conversational.
Yeah, we just made that
You would
up.
think by now we'd be able to do that.
Soda pop memorabilia for several years now.
Don't vomit memorabilia.
Memorabilia. Let's make some TV!
Okay.
All right,
I'm
rolling.
starting. You're starting.
3, 2, 1. Now the day that
Ding.
each with an interesting history all their own.
Can we just talk into the cup?
Yes.
Hello, I'm Kate Pleasant.
This is a muffled edition.
This is Heartland Highways in a cup. For your traveling pleasure.
Oh, no.